Alrighty, welcome back to Shut Up and Ball Week 9 reactions. I am Aaron, and as per usual, I'm joined by Mr. John Harris. Um, I'll ask, how was your weekend, John? I know we'll go over the game itself. Outside of the game, how was your weekend?
Well, obviously, we'll get into this later. The Cowboys lost. My college team, Baylor, they lost, which pretty much eliminated any playoff hopes they might have had. Um, it was a rough weekend for all my sports teams. All of a sudden, these random rumors of the Celtics trading Jaylen Brown for Ben Simmons are popping up, which I think is not going to happen. Like I'm sure maybe that's the price tag that Philly would want, but it's not going to happen. But just not a lot of good stuff for me and all the teams I support this weekend.
Yeah, well, anyways, yeah, kind of rough weekend. We're just gonna dive right into it, and as I mentioned, Week 9 reactions. What we're doing today, we're gonna start off with the Thursday nighter, which was a little bit more high scoring, I think, than I thought it would be. Um, anyways, Indianapolis Colts took care of business, beat the New York Jets 45-30. Fortunately for Mike White, I think it was after the second drive of the game, right? I think he finished the first drive, but at one point he hurt his hand, couldn't go back in, and I'm forgetting the quarterback that they inserted.
It's Josh Johnson.
Josh Johnson. I'm sorry, I knew it was a
Yeah,
Johnson, but yeah,
yeah.
I knew it was a Jay Johnson. Just couldn't put that last part, which I should have known. But anyways, yeah, that happened Thursday night. Not much of a close game per se, but anyways, I'll let John take his thoughts in regards to this one. Your boy Elijah Mitchell did score twice. Had a solid game fantasy wise, but other than that, not much to say for the Jets.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets defense gave up 45 points. Not a whole lot to say there. Jonathan Taylor went crazy. Carson Wentz had a really good game. I mean, it was pretty much everybody on the Colts was eating. Unfortunately for me, I was 3 Michael Pittman yards away from winning $300 on a
Oof.
$5 parlay. Whatever. It was $5. So not a whole lot to say there. Josh Johnson actually did look pretty good. 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and there's just one interception. Elijah Moore finally popped. Other than that, I mean, not super surprising. I would say I was a little surprised that the Colts dominated offensively in such ease. I thought that maybe the Jets put up a little bit more of a fight in this one. But overall, not surprised by the result.
Yeah. For me, I'm not too shocked. I mean, I was fantasy wise a little bit worried there for a second. Jonathan Taylor, I don't know if you remember, he looked like he'd been
Yep.
injured in the first half, and then he came out and I think scored, did most of his damage in the second half, or just at least scored a touchdown. Sorry, memory's hazy just because Sunday was more. I'm remembering more of the
He
Sunday
did
games.
do a lot in the second half
Yeah,
because I remember he had that 80-yard
that's when he
touchdown,
had it.
and then
Okay.
I think he had another one early in the second half too.
Okay. So he did most of his work. He did do most of his work in the second half. But yeah, it was like kind of like John mentioned, not not a lot to really mention here. You know, Jets lost another quarterback. We'll see who starts this week for them. And yeah, the Colts just took care of business. Their defense maybe a little bit concerning going forward, but granted they were ahead pretty early, and it was a Thursday night. Thursday's always a weird short week, so not much inventory to take forward take going forward. But yeah, I'm with you. Good win for the Colts, and yeah, we'll see if they can build on this momentum to try to get back in that AFC playoff race. But we'll move on quickly from that to the Sunday games, starting with the Battle of Ohio, where the Cleveland Browns took care of business against the Cincinnati Bengals, 41-16. I'll throw it to you, John. First, you picked Cleveland here to cover and win. I think they were favored, if I remember correctly. Regardless, you're right. So, what were your thoughts in regards to this one?
Well, first off, I didn't think it would be this. Uh, I don't want to say dominating, but like ultimately the Browns just kind of did whatever they wanted, and the Bengals weren't able to keep up. And I didn't think that it would be this big of a scoring difference, especially if you told me that Baker Mayfield threw for like 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like I think maybe they put up 30 points, they put up 41, and I think it just comes down to the fact that there was, I believe, a 99-yard pick six early in this game from Denzel Ward,
I think
and
it was the
that
Bengals'
that
first
just sort of
drive.
yeah, that sort of set the tone for the rest of the game because the Bengals went all the way down the field and then a 99-yard one like that. I mean, that's got to be deflating. It's hard to come back from, especially now you're down early against a team who is going to control the clock. Baker's not going to force anything. And as crazy as it sounds, like Baker looks more comfortable when Odell Beckham is not on the field. And it's weird because Odell's so talented, but I think there's just the weight off his back to where he doesn't feel like he needs to get anybody necessarily involved. He just plays football. And I think that's what the Browns did. They came out, Nick Chubb looked really good. And when those things are happening, when Baker can be comfortable and Nick Chubb can look good, or just the run game overall can look good, the Browns are hard to beat. And they showed that in this one. And I think also you got to give their defense credit because, like we just said, Denzel Ward, massive pick six. And then throughout pretty much the rest of the game, they showed up big time, only allowing this high scoring offense 16 points. Jamar Chase, I don't know if it was his worst game of the year. I mean, he still did all right, 6 for 49, but he didn't get a touchdown, didn't get any deep bombs in this one. His longest catch was 15 yards, and that's sort of what's, been getting the Bengals big plays is that deep ball to Jamar Chase. So credit to the Browns. They showed up in a big week too because divisional opponent, they're 4-4. Things could start to get ugly, especially in a very competitive division right now to where everybody's above 500. They need that one.
Not much. Yeah, I don't know much else to add there. You can't hit the nail on the head with the Bears, not the Bears, the Browns offense. I guess I'll start first. I should start first with the Bengals offense. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, that pick six, literally 14-point swing. They're at the 1 yard line driving. Even if they don't get a touchdown, that's 3 points for them, 7 less points for Cleveland. And then I believe Joe Burrow, if I remember correctly, his other interception was also in the red zone as well. So, I mean, that was kind of what got the Bengals the week before when they played the Jets. Granted, it wasn't turnovers in the red zone, but it was converting just touchdowns in the red zone. They had to sell for a lot of field goals. So maybe that's something that Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow need to go back to the book and work on, just more ways to score in the red zone. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I shouldn't have been too shocked when I made my picks. I should have accounted more. Browns O-line, one of the best. And as good as Cincinnati's defense has been, I mean, especially the front four, kind of just a little bit average, above average, and especially with Nick Chubb back, just as we saw, just elevates this Browns running game and offense in general to a whole new level. And then, kind of like we mentioned, once you're behind against Cleveland, you're really just playing into their hands because what do they want to do? They want to run the ball on offense, control the clock, and then on defense, they want Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney, and those guys just to be flying upfield going after your quarterback. So, yeah, it's unfortunate for the Bengals. I think that was their first meeting, right? So there will be another.
Yeah, I believe so.
There will be another. By the way, on the topic of if you're watching on YouTube, John's layout mentioned, and just everyone mentioned, a lot of underdogs winning this week, a lot of road dogs too, or just road teams too. Browns won away from home, or one at Cincinnati as well this game. So that'll be important factor in going to the next game, which was the Denver Broncos. They went to Jerry's World once again, road dog, beat the Dallas Cowboys 30-16. For a while there, it was pretty much 30-0, 2 late touchdowns and garbage time to pretty up the stats per se. But yeah, John, what happened here? I didn't get to watch this game.
Okay. Well, first off, score was not as close as it looks. 30-16. It was 30-0. Cowboys scored 2 touchdowns at the end with like the last 3 minutes. It was a blowout. So I don't think that this was just a 2-score game. The Broncos dominated overall. And ultimately, it was just everything went wrong for the Cowboys. I mean, you have to give credit to the Broncos because they did well defensively. They had a solid game plan, and then offensively, it helps that they never played from behind in this one, but they committed to running the ball. I think this is the first team all year against Dallas that has truly committed to running. Now, maybe that's because Dallas tends to put up a lot of points, so it's harder for other teams. But they had a lot of success. Javante Williams over 100 yards. Melvin Gordon, I think, had over 100 yards total on the game. And so both running backs were heavily involved. Tim Patrick had a really good game. Just Teddy Bridgewater did what he normally does. He was conservative, didn't force anything, took what the defense gave him. And so they did well. But unfortunately for the Cowboys, like this, basically this wasn't a game where the Broncos all of a sudden like shed some light on, oh my gosh, this is how you stop them, because this was sort of like routine defenses that the Cowboys see pretty much every week. It was just the Cowboys did not execute and the Broncos did. I every week after the Cowboys game, I read this one, article series called Decoding Kellen Moore, and they dive into the Cowboys offense and what they did, what the defense tried to do. And the sucky part about this one was there was so many crucial third and fourth downs that they easily execute in previous games, and they didn't in this one. First drive, they're driving downfield, they get inside the 40. It's a 4th and 1, and they run the ball to Zeke. He loses a yard. If you look at the play, the Cowboys had 6 blockers in the box. The Broncos had 8 defenders. Simple math. Coaches need to call a timeout. Dak needs to audible out of this. Somebody needs to do something. They didn't. They ran it. They lost a yard because naturally you can't block 2 extra people. And so that stops their first drive. They get a stop. They get it again next. Another 4th down. They run a good play. The Broncos, for most of the game, they did not blitz. They only sent 4 rushers. They were sitting in man coverage. And so they did that on this play. Cedric Wilson gets wide open. Dak just missed him. I mean, the throw was there, but it was so low that Cedric couldn't really make a play on it. And so they don't convert on that one. Broncos go down and score. Cowboys get the ball back, and it just kept turning into 3rd down, 4th down miscues. And there wasn't a single person to blame. Dak looked rusty. He looked like, the 2 weeks that he hasn't been playing football, mattered because he just wasn't in the groove. He missed deep throws to CeeDee Lamb, I think 3 different times in this game. Amari Cooper had his first drop of the year on a wide open 3rd down that would have probably been a touchdown. The play before that, I believe it was Tony Pollard dropped a wide open catch too. Like, it was just everybody. Nobody did good. The Broncos came out, they executed, they just played better, and it's just a shame because there was ample opportunity for Dallas to get in the game, and they didn't take advantage of any of it.
Yeah, so I watched the condensed version like on YouTube, and of the game, and that's what I think the biggest thing one of the few things I noticed was it seemed like Dak was just rusty off, and like you mentioned, 2 weeks not playing football, and that's including practice too. I'm not sure he did even practice at all. I think he got like one,
No,
maybe like a walk. He didn't get practice at all. Yeah, so I don't. That goes to show, like, I feel like, not to quote Allen Iverson or anything, but you don't practice for 2-3 weeks. And I don't care who you are. Once again, Dak Prescott, easily a top 10 quarterback with all the talent. It's tough to be on the same page as the rest of your team. And then on the flip side too, like, you hit it. Like, this Dallas defense relying on turnovers. Teddy Bridgewater not turning the ball over. Like, not this Dallas defense was, we're going to stop you by, just stopping all 4 downs. Most of the time, this Dallas defense was wreaking havoc, causing turnovers. So, just kind of a bad storm, I felt like, for your Cowboys, but a necessary one. You'd rather have that kind of loss and learn these lessons at this point in the season and move forward. So, good win for the Broncos. Shout out to my uncle and my grandfather, both Denver fans. So I'm pretty sure they're happy about that one, especially living in Texas and such. So,
and I'll add this about the Broncos. I mean, what a week to sort of shift the narrative about them, right? They had 3 games where they won against crappy teams. They beat Washington, so a lot of people just think they're not very good. They come out and they smoke the Cowboys,
and they traded Von Miller. So people are like, are they just phoning it in for the rest of the season? No, like, they're still playing.
And Jonathan Cooper, the 6th round rookie to replace Von Miller in that spot, came out and had 2 sacks. So, what a week for those guys.
So good win for Denver, get them back on track. For Dallas, tough loss, but I believe y'all are still fine divisional wise. So But keeping things with going to the other team in Texas, the Houston Texans, they went to Miami. Unfortunately, they didn't get the memo of underdogs winning, because they lost to Miami 17-9. Once again, though, kind of similar theme. At least I felt. Tyrod Taylor first game back in since week 2, basically. I think, right, or was
Mm-hmm.
week 2 or 3 since the Cleveland game. Just not on the same page with his receivers. Had 3 interceptions. Just looked rusty. Looked like obviously had not played football in a while. But Miami tried. They tried really. I'm not saying they intentionally, but it was just an ugly game. Both teams had 9 turnovers combined. Score indicated 17-9. Very defensive game. Jacoby Brissett played. There's just not much to mention on this game. Like Dolphins, just their defense hung on. Offense had a few more plays. Playmakers made a few more plays. Miles Gaskin had a touchdown as well. So, yeah, not much to build upon for that. And Houston's Houston. We know who they are. So, anything to add in regards to that game, John?
Not really. There's just I didn't pay attention to this game at all, to be honest. The only thing I know of is that Tyrod Taylor just didn't have a great game. And like we just talked about, Dak missing time can do that to a guy. Tyrod's missed even more time than that. And so wouldn't panic, but at the same time, it's the Texans, so it's not like you have a whole lot to panic about because they know who they are.
Yeah. So, yeah. Alrighty. So now going on to one of the more exciting games of the early slate is the New Orleans Saints. They were at home, but they got upset by the Atlanta Falcons, 27-25. I mean, Trevor Siemian. My thoughts real quick. Trevor Siemian not is reason he's a third string quarterback. Did not look very good. They threw Taysom Hill in at one point, so I'm not sure if this was just like they weren't sure if Taysom Hill could take the full workload of doing the whole offense because just coming off the concussion, maybe hadn't limited in practice. I'm not sure. He was in for like a couple snaps, and then Simeon went back out there. Regardless, Atlanta took care of business without a lot of weapons. It's just Cordell Patterson and no, you're not freezing, by the way, on my end. But anyway,
Okay.
it's kind of the formula that they've been riding. Cordell Patterson, a lot of him. Some of these other guys. Russell Gage had a solid game, and then for the Saints, it was really just their offense stalling. And maybe a little bit of divisional familiarity. That's why the Falcons were able to move the ball on the Saints. But John, what were your thoughts in regards to this divisional matchup?
First off, I don't know. I think maybe people just got a little ahead of themselves with the Saints. Not that the Saints are a bad team, but like Trevor Siemian is a third string quarterback for a reason. Taysom Hill, although he was back and he did play in this one, he wasn't fully there. And I think just because of the way that they beat the Bucks, I don't know. I think that maybe just people expected a lot out of them this week, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to happen because sometimes, Simeon comes in, he wins a game because he doesn't have to play a whole lot and the game plan is working. But then when you give an opposing team a full week to actually game plan for them, that could be a different story. And you got to give credit to the Falcons because right now, if the season ended, I believe they've worked themselves into a playoff spot. Obviously, there's still a full season to go, but I did not expect them to be 4-4 at this point of the year, especially since myself, a lot of people, probably included, thought that they might be one of the worst teams in the whole league. And this is without Calvin Ridley. This is with Mike Davis not really giving them a whole lot. There's been things that have been happening to that team that have not gone their way, and they're still 4-4. So credit to the Falcons for a big win. Don't want to take anything away from them, despite the quarterback situation with New Orleans. They came out, they played well. I was really impressed by Matt Ryan. I know he's a veteran. I know we know what he's capable of, but against the Saints defense has been giving other people problems. He came out, he stepped up, he had a really big game. So good stuff for the Falcons. Like you said, it could just be division familiarity. Sometimes those divisional games can be a little different than the rest of your schedule. But that was a big one for the Falcons and an unfortunate one for the Saints because, as even though they're 5-3 and they're still comfortable as of right now, with the Jameis stuff, you never know what's going to happen with the rest of the year with this team and the quarterback spot, and so they need as many wins as they can get to try and fight for that wild card situation.
Yeah, and just last point. I mean, we're starting to see, and once again in the draft, I was surprised they didn't go receiver first round. Felt like even then they needed someone to complement Michael Thomas, and now no Michael Thomas. We'll see if they can get in on the Odell sweepstakes, but even then, it's going to take them some time. Maybe, if all works well too, it's going to take them some time to get fully into the offense. So, I think wide receiver definitely a position that they'll have to address, and obviously maybe quarterback. But Matt Ryan, just to piggyback on that, be very interesting. See if I'm Miami, if the price is still too high for Deshaun. Maybe you go with Matt Ryan for maybe just one first round pick, and or just Tua. Miami's or Atlanta could be looking just for a clean swap, something of the sort, start over. So we'll see. But Matt Ryan still looking like he can lead a team, do good things. Be an NFL quarterback. So we'll see what happens with him this offseason and going forward. But going for Atlanta. But now keeping on the East Coast, going up to New York, where the New York Giants beat the Las Vegas Raiders 23-16. Kind of an odd game, but Derek Carr 2 picks. That seemed to be the backbreaker. Daniel Jones didn't have to do much. I think he only threw the ball 12 times, if I remember correctly. I had him in fantasy. I just saw, so didn't have to do much. Just had to manage the game and such on that end, run the ball. But John, what were your thoughts in regards to what occurred here?
Sorry, which game are we talking? We're talking about the Giants Raiders, right?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, Daniel Jones, he had 15 completions. He threw it
15.
like 20 times.
I'm sorry. But he only had like 100 yards, like 100.
Yeah, he had 110 yards passing, 1 touchdown. It was really, and a fumble that he lost.
Sorry.
It was really the run game with Devontae Booker and Elijah Penny that did most of the offensive damage. They had about 150 rushing yards. But that's even that, you have about 260 total yards on offense. So you're like, man, how did they win this game? Xavier McKinney got a big pick 6, and without that pick 6, they don't win that game. And then he got another one on Derek Carr as well later in the game. So they did well on that end, and ultimately they just, I don't know, I felt like it was the old bend but don't break kind of a thing where they were giving up yards. I mean, Derek Carr threw for almost 300. The Raiders running backs, Kenya Drake and Josh Jacobs, went for over 100. So they gave up, I think, over 400 yards total offense, and still the Giants were able to win the game. I don't know how. I didn't watch this one, so I don't know if there was missed field goals.
I know Daniel Carson missed. He did miss one. I know at least one.
Okay,
so that did hurt early.
So he missed the field goal. There was the 2 picks. I know that Derek Carr also lost a fumble. So the Giants, like I said, bend but don't break. They were causing turnovers deep into their own territory, and they just made things happen. So that's a good win for the Giants. Their defense finally stepped up in a year where their defense was supposed to be better than they have currently been performing. And I think for Giants fans, you hope that this can be kind of the norm. We'll say I didn't expect the game to go like this. I did think that the Raiders would probably I didn't think they would I thought they would just be worse offensively as a whole, but it seems like they were actually all right for the most part. It was just once they got deep into the Giants territory where those turnovers happened. But overall, I would say if I'm a Raiders fan, I'm not super worried because they still moved the ball incredibly easily. And it's going to be a rare occurrence that Derek Carr turns the ball over 3 times.
Yeah. So, I have the drives pulled up. Second half, just killer for Las Vegas. I mean, like you mentioned, opened up the second half, pick 6 on the first drive. Okay, then they get a field goal. Then Giants respond. And then that's when they missed a field goal, the Raiders. And then Giants punted. And then and then interception. That's what they do. Derek Carr threw the second pick. Led to a Giants field goal. And then they fumble on their last drive in the red zone again. So 3 especially 2 of those, being just heartbreaking turnovers, kind of the theme of the week too. I mean, kind of shows you NFL so much more different from college, where we have these, just one of those things can hurt you so bad. But go in for the Giants, and like with you, I'm not too concerned about the Raiders. Just kind of like with Cincy, just got to clean up the mistakes, maybe figure out different ways to score in the red zone. Just polish up your red zone offense. But speaking of a team that's very good at the red zone defense, New England Patriots, they beat the Carolina Panthers 24-6. Not a good game at all for Sam Darnold. 3 interceptions, and I'm just seeing now he has shoulder, something. I'm sorry, some issue with his shoulder. I think his shoulder blade was I saw incomplete or chipped. Regardless, he may miss time, but not a good performance from him. Especially, I think Matt Rule even said it publicly, which understandable. But New England really just controlled this game from start to finish. But what were your thoughts in regards to this one?
It went about as expected. Sam Darnold facing the Patriots, even removed from Adam Gase and the Jets. Sam Darnold just really hasn't looked amazing this year, and so then facing his old demons in Bill Belichick and the Patriots, I think both of us sort of expected this. And then to add on to that, like you said, the injury that sucks for Panthers fans because of the draft haul they did give up, and they committed to the 5th-year option. But we'll see what happens with Sam Darnold. Ultimately, just not a good outing from him, and the Panthers are on a pretty bad skid as of right now. Meanwhile, the Patriots above 500, fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not with Tom Brady. Maybe it's not getting as much news, and they don't have much flash offensively. But Patriots kind of doing what they were doing a couple of years ago, where it's all coming together mid-season with their team of pretty much a lot of nobodies per se. And really, I mean, I know Mac Jones threw a sick interception early, and I think they fumbled as well early, which set up the 6 points really for Carolina in that second quarter. But yeah, our good friend Dogger, he mentioned in the group chat, and I think that was fitting. That I think we know what Sam Darnold is now. It's fair to say he's not. It's like that one meme, like you're not that guy, Sam. You're not the franchise guy. I'm sorry. So fortunate for him. We'll see what the Panthers do going forward at quarterback, not just short term but long term, as they'll have to figure that out. But going for the Patriots, slowly sneaking into that playoff discussion, and especially because they're one of their other division rivals, Buffalo Bills. We're one of the teams that did not have a good Sunday. Buffalo Bills lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars 9-6. Definitely not the score line that I think anybody predicted. The real Josh Allen showed up. But Josh Allen, the edge defender, had the better of Josh Allen, the quarterback. So John, how do you feel? How do you make of what happened here in Jacksonville?
Well, apparently all of us should have seen this coming. I don't know if you've heard of the Manning cast curse that has actually struck. There have been 6 current NFL players on the Manning cast. All 6 of them have proceeded to lose the game they played in next.
Oh no!
After the Manning cast appearance, Josh Allen conveniently showed up on the Manning cast in the previous week's Monday night game, and the curse proceeded to strike again. I believe Rob Gronkowski was on, and they lost their game. I can't remember who else has been on.
I know Tom's been on. Russell Wilson's been on.
Yeah, Tom's been on. Russ is on. All 6 of them proceeded to lose the game immediately after that Monday night appearance. Josh is the latest victim. So apparently all of us should have seen this coming because the Jaguars, they ended up winning. Overall, I mean, I have to give massive credit to the Jaguars defense. They're the only reason they won this game. Their offense put up 9 points, but their defense held Buffalo to 6. That's an incredibly impressive achievement. I didn't get to watch any of this game, so I don't know really what happened. I know that Josh Allen threw 2 picks. I'm trying to look here at the stats. Did they fumble any? Yeah, Josh Allen lost a fumble as well.
The fumbles would ice the game.
Yeah, so I mean, 3 turnovers, but overall, like I said, you got to give credit to Jaguars defense because they came out, they did what they needed to do, and then on the other side of the ball, their offense just didn't turn it over and just trusted that defense to keep them alive, and that's what happened. So good win for the Jags. Wouldn't be, it's the NFL. Anybody can lose to anybody. It was a weird week for a lot of teams. And so ultimately it's just something where you reassess, you try to fix it. And when you have freak games like that, you can't really panic unless a pattern starts to emerge. But overall, I think the Bills will be fine.
So I actually did watch the game pretty well, thoroughly, unfortunately. And I think kind of an issue that I thought was resolved earlier in the season, kind of rearing its ugly head again for Buffalo. Lack of a real run game. I mean,
that is the one thing I will add that they do need to be worried about.
I know they're losing linemen, but it's too much. Kind of like we mentioned with Kyler Murray last year towards the end of the half. It's too much on Kyler Murray. They're not really running the ball. I mentioned it maybe a couple times back in McCarthy days with Rodgers. It's I know it's a crazy concept to some people, but sometimes coaches they just they have a stud quarterback and they're like, oh well, he's good, so I don't need to do anything extra or creative to help them out. Don't really need they'll bail us out, but they can only bail you out so many times. And this game really showed that. I mean, you could kind of tell, Josh Allen. I felt like he was getting more and more frustrated as the game went on. Their offense just wasn't clicking. And like I said, kind of last episode, need another difference maker other than Stephon Diggs. That's where I think the run game would have helped, because it was just once again. I mean, the reason the other Josh Allen, this is tough because there's two Josh Allens. Had one of the
Yeah.
reasons he had great games because didn't have to worry about the run at all. Every time, just as soon as the ball was snapped, him and the other person on the edge, whether it be Chase on or whoever they were just flying right to Josh Allen. And this is a fast Jacksonville team. They're built on, pretty predicated on speed with Miles Jack also there too. So, yeah, it's something Brian Daboll I think has to maybe gain Dawson Knox back too will help. They didn't have him this game as well, and he's been a pretty good safety blanket as well for Josh Allen, but the quarterback at least. But yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm not hitting the panic button like you mentioned, but I am a little bit concerned going forward with Buffalo. With their offense, surprisingly, which is weird because it was the flip side last year. Their offense was amazing. Their defense was the question mark, and now they've righted the ship the other way. So we'll see if they can get it together. But yeah, Josh Allen can't be your leading rusher for most of these games, and most of the games he has been as of recently. If you go back and look at the numbers, and especially who knows if they'll have Zach Moss this week. It might be all on Devin Singletary, who's kind of showing he's more of a third down change of pace back. So we'll see if Buffalo can get that straightened out. I hope that they can. But now we're going to go on to the afternoon games. I'm going to start with the one that went, for some reason, flew under the radar. Battle of the Purple Teams. Baltimore Ravens beat the Minnesota Vikings 34-31. No one's talking about the Lamar comeback. And I even saw today a certain person was saying he doesn't deliver in the primetime moments. But I mean, this is what the fourth game this season that Lamar has used his arm to come back. I mean, Chiefs, Colts this week. There probably is another week I'm forgetting.
They had to go down and hit that one drive to set up the game-winning field goal against Detroit.
Yeah. So I mean, has he not delivered? I don't know. Anyways, John, I'm just gonna throw this to you. What are your thoughts in regards to this game and maybe why people are sleeping on Lamar? Because I'm not understanding. Like, how is this just flying under the radar?
I don't know why people are sleeping on Lamar. He had a crazy game, 120 yards rushing, almost 300 passing, 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, but overall, I think he just had a monster performance. And I think it's weird because Lamar is, I think what the previous narrative had always been was they could run the ball, they had a good defense, but if they got behind, they couldn't do anything about it. And that's become the total opposite. And honestly, the part that I'm most worried about with the Ravens right now is their defense. They just allowed 30 points to the Vikings, and the Vikings are no slouches. I mean, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, like they have weapons. Kirk Cousins is solid. But still, I mean, it feels like this has become sort of a norm for the Ravens is their defense is giving up a lot of points. And, you're asking Lamar to make these massive comebacks. Now he's doing it for the most part, but that's not a sustainable method for any team to win. And it does suck because the Ravens, I think, are just one of the teams just plagued by so many injuries. We know about Marcus Peters. I believe Deshaun Elliott, their starting safety, just went down and is going to be out for the year. We know about Ronnie Stanley, their tackle. Like there's just their running back situation. A lot of injuries plaguing this Ravens team. And although they're looking good right now, they're 6-2. They're making these comebacks. I just worry about how sustainable it truly is because of the lack of depth that we're going to start seeing eventually. And then also just the defense is not performing up to snuff. Now, the unfortunate part, I think, is that Lamar is having arguably his best year when it comes to throwing the football. I don't know the stats, when it comes to previous years, 9 games in, 8 games in for them because they already have their bye. But still, I mean, I don't know why it's being swept under the rug because Lamar at this point is single-handedly keeping the team in games in ones that if this was the old Lamar, they probably would have lost.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to add on that because yeah, you took my points away from me, but very well said. Uh, Line's not as good as it's been in years. Run game's not been good in years. Okay, maybe receivers are a little bit better with Brown, Bateman, Mark Andrews still there. But yeah, I mean it's just one of those things that we're not doing MVP talk, but he's definitely right up there, especially with Josh Allen struggling recently. And obviously Mahomes is not no longer with in it. Brady's kind of had down. So, but really just him and Brady, I think, are right up there with, and then like Stafford maybe right behind them. But yeah, and Minnesota jumped out once again to an early lead, and for all the Lamar naysayers, was a perfect recipe for Lamar to, as they would say, fall under pressure, not deliver, but he delivered. So I don't know. Hopefully, I hope that narrative changes for him because yeah, like you mentioned, John, I think you hit on the head. He's had probably his best passing season, not just statistically, but just looking at him, making throws in the pocket, making the correct reads that he needs to. And once again, I felt he could do this, and he did this in college. He ran a pro style offense in Louisville. It's just Baltimore hasn't asked him to do that, and I think now they are asking him. Ironically, when there's less help around them in the run game and defense, so hopefully they can just find a way, like they somehow always seem to do, to make the other pieces fit on defense and the run game and the O line. So far it has, but we'll see. But as of right now, Baltimore 6-2, very key win for them, and for the Vikings. Just I don't want to call it a season ender, but that's a tough one. Now you're
Yeah.
on an uphill climb with a bunch of other NFC teams, and you really have no room for error. Even if you want a wild card spot, this isn't even just division at this point. But so yeah, we'll see what they do going forward. But going on to the other coast, or technically it was in Philadelphia. Sorry, L.A. Chargers. They went to Philadelphia and beat the Eagles 27-24. So those that watched the spreads picks, John won by a half point. That was a heartbreaker. But kind of game went, I think, really how in a way we both mentioned. Justin Herbert, 32 for 38, 350, 2 touchdowns, and just dominated the air. Really had no issues there. Then on the flip side, Eagles just said, "Screw this." Kind of like they have the past 2 weeks. We're just going to run the ball, and especially against the Chargers, you can't stop us. But unfortunately for the Chargers, they were the ones that just ended up on top. So, John, what were your thoughts in regards to this game?
I mean, this is the way that Brandon Staley is going to win games. They don't allow their opponent to pass. Jalen Hurts only threw the ball 17 times. They ran it 39 times. That's the way that the Chargers defense is structured. They want you to run the ball. They keep the safety back, and that's what you're going to do. And it works in some of these games because they believe in their offense and Justin Herbert's ability to respond every time. And ultimately, they believe that if you have these long, drawn out drives, that your quarterback, in this case being Jalen Hurts, is not capable of necessarily making crucial third downs, like a third and long. If they can get the first 2 downs like stopped, 1-2 yard gains, they don't believe that your quarterback is going to be capable of making the key conversion if they're not in a rhythm, if they're not throwing the ball a whole lot, and ultimately they're not, an elite level QB. So this is the Chargers style. It went exactly how we thought it would. It was a little closer than I expected, but ultimately, I mean, Justin Herbert, monster performance, and thank you, Keenan Allen, for finally eclipsing 20 points in fantasy.
But so yeah, that was that game. That's a good win for the Chargers. Like I mentioned, desperately needed in the AFC, but keeping it in their division. The Kansas City Chiefs beat my Green Bay Packers 13-7. I'll throw it to you first, but because I'm curious what your thoughts were. So yeah, what are they?
Well, first off, still incredibly disappointed in the Chiefs offense. 13 points. Mahomes had 1 touchdown. He had 166 yards passing. Like I don't know what to make of the Chiefs right now. I would say that this year is easily Mahomes' worst year, but there's like probably 6 of the games that they've played. They're like some of the are I would say 6 of the games this year might be like his 6 worst games of his career. If we're just putting it into that sort of perspective, it's just not looking good. The Packers did what every other team is doing. They're not blitzing him. They're just playing a lot of coverage back on the back end. And so I just don't know how to feel about the Chiefs. This is not a win that if I'm a Chiefs fan would feel comfortable with. because on the other side, Jordan Love's there, and I don't know. I wasn't super impressed by Jordan Love. Obviously, this is his first career start, I believe. I don't know if I'm wrong on that. If there's been any other games where Rodgers maybe sat last year, but I believe it's his first career start. Just didn't really do anything to wow me. Um, not going to freak out about that because it's your first game. It's against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like even if they're doing bad, the name alone can make you nervous. So there's that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to take away for either team. I think with Aaron Rodgers there, the Packers probably would have blew him out just because 13 points is not good enough to beat Aaron Rodgers. Um, so yeah, if I'm a Packers fan, I don't care about this game. Like it sucks for seeding, I guess, because maybe this could be the difference between getting like the first seed in a bye week. Um, but other than that, I wouldn't be worried. And then for the Chiefs, I mean, yeah, just like I said, disappointed in their offense.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll start with that premise you mentioned. I mean, Packers almost still probably should have still won this game. Missed the first field goal after the Chiefs scored the first drive, but then after the
Right.
Packers respond, go down, missed a field goal because Holder didn't put the laces out. That's what Mason Crosby got on him for that. And then the second, and then Chiefs lost on downs, which once again, I'll get into Chiefs offense for a second, but and then next Packers, they're already in Chiefs territory. I think got one first down, then the field goal gets blocked. So that's 6 points where it was 13-7. That could have been that. And then also let's not forget 3 of the Chiefs points came from late second quarter muffed punt. They're right in field goal position. By the way, they didn't do much with that when they had to settle for a field goal. So, in regards to Chiefs offense, sorry, I'm pulling up the numbers here I feel like they don't have much creativity in the run game. It's just shotgun runs, kind of like we mentioned with Arizona last year. A lot of just shotgun runs. Like I know that works in college, but this is the NFL, and the best run teams get under center, and not only that, but nothing off the run game either. Like, is there how most teams get their big plays is off the play action once they get the safeties and linebackers, etc., to bite or get you to load the box. And Chiefs have the O line to be that type of team, and they could do it with zero. I'm not sure if Andy Reid's not patient enough, and then like you mentioned though, it's also Mahomes being off, not being true to his reads. There are times where I saw him, run out of the pocket, and I'm like, it's a clean pocket. Like he could have stayed there, but didn't. And so it's just a bad storm of a lot of things. Because I never thought I would see the day where Tyreek Hill only has 37 yards receiving, and Kelsey didn't have a great game either, and then it adds up to the fact that it's just whenever that Mahomes is on target, it just seems like it's a drop. Whenever Mahomes finally, it's just bad storm. I don't know what to do to fix it. I don't know if they need to get Mahomes back in his mojo or what. But yeah, if I was a coach, I would try to implement more of a run game, something to make teams get out of the two safety look, make things easier on Mahomes. I don't know, but I'm very concerned for Kansas City. But like you mentioned, John, I'm not too concerned about the Packers. It was a good showing. Defense, I've been very impressed by the defense thus far, even though we've lost Jair Alexander, Zadarius Smith. Defense has still been pretty stout. And yeah, I'm not going to be too harsh on Jordan Love, but starting to see why he didn't even dress last year. Like missing NFL easy throws, on the check downs. I'm not sure if you saw, but I saw plenty of times where he
Yeah.
just absolutely grounded it at like Aaron Jones' feet, who's like 4 yards from him. Like you get like it's a 4 yard pass, man. Just you need to hit him on the numbers. Like that's one of those where no excuses. So hopefully you can clean that up, especially if Rodgers does go next year. But go in for the Packers, or not win for that. Go in for the Chiefs. They need it record wise, but morality wise, not great going forward for them. So we'll see if if they fix things on offense, which I never thought I would. I never thought going into the season I would be saying is that the Chiefs have issues on offense. So interesting.
That's the crazy part about the last 4 weeks is their defense is allowing 15 points a game. Now, caveat to that is they played Taylor Heineke, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love in that stretch, but They allowed 7 points to Jordan Love and the Packers. They allowed 13 each to Heineke and the Giants, and they allowed 27 to the Titans in there. So like over the last 4 weeks, their defense has been the thing they're relying on, and their offense, wildly enough, is the one that is letting them down.
Yeah. So, oof. It's a good thing I didn't end up buying tickets to that game and like Roger wasn't healthy because that would have been a blowout. Anyways,
Yeah.
now going on to the last game of the afternoon, the Arizona Cardinals. No Kyler Murray, no D Hop as well. Lost Chase Edmonds in this game. No JJ Watt. Doesn't matter. They still took care of business against the 49ers 31-17 with Colt McCoy, a quarterback who I didn't even know was still in the league. But yeah, John, what the heck happened here?
Well, actually, I want to hear your opinions
Okay.
first.
I don't have much. I quickly went back and watched this game. I I I gotta give Cliff a little bit credit. I think it's a little bit of Cliff. There's some creative play calls, and also I think you got to give credit to their GM as well. Just bringing in James Conner, who we saw. Okay, he can't be the number one back, but maybe that was just because of Pittsburgh. Now we're seeing that because he's. We'll see if he can be number one, true number one. But he's been great so far this season and great change of pace kind of guy that can do everything. And that we already mentioned the linebackers defense been playing really, really well. I mean, I'm just shocked by it. I expected worse from Colt McCoy. Granted, and I think some of those were scheme plays that he didn't have to do too much. But and then for 49ers, I don't know. Like I really don't know what to say because I was just shocked that Arizona played that well. I expected worse because they were missing key guys, but this goes to show next man up mentality. And they just, this was I think the biggest shock to me. This was the bigger shock than Buffalo, maybe because I watched that game fully and see how it transpired. But yeah, I was just shocked whenever I looked over at the scoreboard and say, "Oh, Arizona's still winning. Oh, what the heck's going on in Arizona?" So, but yeah, you can go ahead and share your thoughts because, like I said, I only watched the replay on this one.
Well, first off,
That's replay.
It might be time to start giving Cliff Kingsbury some credit. I'm not going to say I'm wrong on him until the guy proves me wrong in the playoffs. But the thoughts are starting to creep in because the one thing I noticed so far this year, and specifically this game the most, is that unlike the previous year, Cliff has started to, specifically this year as a whole, has integrated the run game a lot more in the air raid offense. The air raid historically is not, there's not a lot of creativity when it comes to the run. It's just a lot of stuff out of shotgun.
Inside, outside zone.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff out of I form in this offense this year, specifically with James Conner. And so, like you said, got to give massive shout out to the GM for bringing a guy like Conner in, who's been really good for them this year. And in the absence of Chase Edmonds, had a monster performance today or this week. And so you got to give credit there. But once again, I got to give Cliff his roses here because of the way that he's implemented the run game to keep them dynamic, multiple. The thing that we're criticizing Buffalo for not being able to do when your quarterback's not healthy, maybe he's not having a great game, you can rely on the run game. Guys like James Conner who can step up, do the dirty work, make things happen, and that can make life easier on your quarterback, whether it's Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy. And that's exactly what happened in this game. So, massive shout out to everyone in the Cardinals organization who made that happen because this was not a game they should have won. Now for the Niners, and I'm just going to read out some stats about Kyle Shanahan and the Niners, and well, let's just have a conversation about it. So the Niners have lost 8 straight home games, so no real home field advantage right now in San Francisco. If we take out the year that they went to the Super Bowl, which obviously it still happened, you got to give credit there, but if we take that year out, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are 19 and 37. That's pretty tough. I think the only winning season they had was the year that they did go to the Super Bowl. And that was a magical year. But at what point do we start to wonder, like who is to fault here? Is it John Lynch in the roster? Is it Shanahan in the offense? Is it, because we know the stuff about Jimmy Garoppolo and the limitations, and everyone blames him. And maybe it's sort of like a Jared Goff situation where Shanahan just needs his guy. But then at that point, are we blaming John Lynch and the work that he's done to build this roster? Because he went out and he got Jimmy Garoppolo. He made the move now to trade multiple draft picks to get Trey Lance. And we don't really know what Trey Lance is doing, because if all this blame is being placed on Jimmy, I do have to wonder how does Trey Lance look in practice if he's not even getting the chance to play in these games? And we knew that he was raw coming in. I don't think either of us were super high on him, but still, I don't know how to feel about San Francisco. At what point do people start getting the blame? Because I think that Kyle Shanahan as a coach has sort of fallen into this spot where nobody really blames him for anything, but at the same time, they're not performing as people have expected them to this year. And then I haven't heard anybody even talk about John Lynch in the slightest, but they've made some questionable roster moves over the last few years. Getting rid of DeForest Buckner, and he's thriving over with the Colts. And Kinlaw's been good, but he's not DeForest Buckner, right? Richard Sherman's gone, and they didn't really address the corner room much at all. There's just I don't know what to make of the Niners right now. That was a bad game to lose. You did so well against Kyler and the Cardinals the first time. They clearly adjusted, and your team did not.
If I had a comment on that, and I'd hate to say this, but really, part of it is obviously injuries. They've been like one of the most unlucky teams in injuries. And yeah, the Jimmy G situation.
There have been a few years in there with that record that Jimmy got hurt. Then last year, a lot of people got hurt.
Last year they had everyone got hurt. And then obviously this year lost Raheem Mostert, who is very vital to the Kyle Shanahan run team, because he's one of the fastest guys. So when Kyle does create the hole, he's one of the few people that can hit it and hit the home run for it. But
then maybe that goes back to John Lynch. Yeah, you drafted Trey Sermon, and what is he doing?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I think I hate to say cop out, but I think a little bit goes on. As much as I like Kyle Shanahan, a little bit goes on both. I mean, at some point, Kyle, especially, and I don't want to write off Trey Lance yet, but it's just not looking like they may not be around to see the finished product of Trey Lance. And honestly, Justin Fields, if I had to redraft, especially if maybe Kyle wanted the mobile quarterback to open up his run game even more, a la RG3, it's looking like Justin Fields is the better prospect right now. If I had to do a redraft, I would take him at 3.
Imagine if Mac Jones was there.
Yeah,
you can't tell me that Mac isn't better than.
I think Mac's
but he couldn't do what Jimmy G does, right?
Yeah. And I think issue 2 we need to realize too is the Jimmy G contract has caused a lot of these the trading with DeForest Buckner. You don't have the money to trade, so you gotta get rid of DeForest Buckner for the guy on the rookie deal. And it's just unfortunate. But still, I would fault John Lynch. Why did I was surprised. I was surprised they didn't trade Eric Armstead instead, who was also on a contract year, hadn't gotten his, and they chose him over DeForest. That was. I still remember that trade being shocked. So I really don't know. I don't know what the full answer is.
Obviously, I don't think any decision is going to be made until after the season. I haven't really heard any rumblings of anybody on the hot seat.
But maybe that's what they need. Maybe they need to be put back on that. Because remember that year they won the Super Bowl. There was this is year 3. They really need, injuries have happened, but they really need to put it together. Then they put it together. So, don't forget too, D Ford, while he helped the Super Bowl run, once again, hasn't really been around the past 2 years. I forget he's even on the team, and he's got a pretty good contract as well. So, if I had to blame one person, it would be John Lynch. I guess he's the one giving out the contracts. Mainly the one I'm assuming doing the contracts with D Ford and him as well. D Ford and Jimmy G. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're on the hot seat next year and this is it. And then if it doesn't work out, I wouldn't be surprised if a divorce is necessary. If this 49ers need to get rid of both of them, and I wouldn't be surprised if both do well somewhere else. It's just unfortunate it hasn't come together here. I think it's not great analysis, but it kind of is the best analysis I can give. Because I feel like it's the truth. It's just unfortunate. They were one Emmanuel Sanders bomb away from this being a completely different story.
Yeah.
But anyways, that is that game. Now going on to the Sunday nighter, where once again another road dog, where the Tennessee Titans, no Derrick Henry, no problem. They took care of the LA Rams 28-16, and obviously one of the biggest upsets of the weekend. John, what were your thoughts as regards to what occurred in LA?
Uh, well, I mean, you gotta. It'd be impossible to ignore the Titans' defense in this one. They won the game because of their defense, plain and simple. They held a stacked offense with the Rams, one of the best offenses in the league, to 16 points. And they basically got two touchdowns out of that defense. One was the pick six, and the other one was a pick that was basically set them up on like the 6 yard line or something. I can't remember the exact yard line, but it was inside the 10, and they just punched that one in for a touchdown. So have to give credit to their defense because massive swing with those two touchdowns that their defense gave them. Jeffrey Simmons had a monster game. Simons, do you know which one it is?
I call him Simmons because two
Simmons.
M's.
Okay.
Kind of like Isaiah Simmons too on the
I
Cardinals.
couldn't remember how it was spelled. I'm going off the top of my head. Jeffrey
That's right.
Simmons, monster game. I think it was 3 sacks on the game. So he had a great performance. Kevin Byard, I think, got the pick six. I can't remember who got the other interception, but I think it was a
David
linebacker.
Long Jr. Yeah,
David
so
Long.
probably
Yeah. Anyway, great performance from the Titans defense. They stepped up. They've had injuries along the secondary with their corners. And overall, they've just on the year have not been amazing. They haven't been terrible, but they just really haven't been a great defense. And they showed up when it mattered most in the absence of Derrick Henry. So that was definitely a good game from them. We'll see how they continue to look moving forward, but I think it changed a lot of people's expectations for the Titans because I think right now they're sitting as the number one seed in the AFC, and they found a way to win.
So yeah, I want to start with the Rams offense. I think I felt the main issue was just weren't patient with the run game. I think I forgot to mention this for Buffalo, but kind of like Buffalo, I think they kind of came into the game expecting to blow out this. Oh, we'll put up some points early, and they didn't, and all of a sudden they were behind the eight ball and became one dimensional, which like you mentioned, John, kind of fell into Tennessee's trap because that's Tennessee was Mike Vrabel was able to come up with a lot of creative coverages on the back end to confuse Stafford and McVay and was kind of all over their stuff for the most part, their concepts. But yeah, if I'm just looking at the total yards, I mean Tennessee 194 total yards on offense, and they scored 28 points. It's wild. But yeah, like we mentioned earlier, and like John just mentioned, just the turnovers were killer. On top of that too, so there's not much great analysis on that side of the ball. Outside of what John already mentioned, it's just Sean McVay and Stafford. I think just need to be a little more patient with the run game because yeah, I mean 21 Tennessee had 21 points in the second quarter, and that's
Yeah.
without Derrick Henry. And like John mentioned, pick six right at the 6 yard line, just basically bailed Tennessee's offense out. Like, oh, you don't have Derrick Henry, no worry, we'll help you out. And that's not saying they actually did that, but that's kind of what happened. Because I mean, LA Rams defense for the most part kind of did their job. It's just they got put into bad spots. And then so that doesn't leave much to say on the other side of the ball because we didn't really get to see much out of Tennessee because they didn't have to do much the offense. So
Yeah, they only had 194 total
yeah,
yards.
194 total yards, didn't do much running wise. So we'll have to see if I think we'll have to wait and see what Tennessee's going to really look like. Maybe next week because yeah, this was not a good indication of at least without Derrick Henry. So yeah, I mean so Rams got to clean it up going forward. But as a Packer fan, I was happy because I think they're them. I think your Cowboys are seven have 2 losses, right? Or did you get your third?
Yeah. No, we have two.
Okay, so big picture them, and I think the Bucks also have 2 losses. So all of us still up there in that race for number one. But now going to the last but not least game of the week, the Monday nighter, the Pittsburgh Steelers held on at home to beat the Chicago Bears 29-27. Bears came back with 21 points in the fourth quarter. Almost had a muff punt. Once again, muff punt led to scoring and such. So. John, what were your thoughts in regards to this battle at Heinz Field?
Well, first off, TJ Watt's a beast. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
knows that, but he had a monster impact on this game. Second off, Justin Fields, incredibly impressive. I think he's getting better and better every week. I think we started to see him stop necessarily caring about trying to make the right reads. And if the play breaks down, he just runs. And that's okay to do because you're really athletic and fast. And, you don't have to sit here and try and impress everybody with your arm and making the right read. And maybe a receiver gets open if you wait half second longer. Just make a play. And so I think we're starting to see him do that. Other than that, I mean, this game was a good one. It was a close one. I thought it was a real shame at the flag on Cassius Marsh for taunting. He was staring down the sideline, and from a certain angle, you could maybe think that he's staring at the punter. I don't know what the ref thought happened, but I didn't see anything that looked like there was taunting, and that was just big because it allowed the Steelers to go down and get a field goal, and it wasn't the game-winning field goal, but naturally that changed the game because they ended up winning by 2. So it's a shame that happened because the Bears might have got a win there. But overall, I mean, I think the Steelers, they deserved this one because their defense, they stepped up when it mattered. And overall, Big Ben actually had a pretty solid outing.
Like I mentioned in previous weeks, like it's like what John said, just playing good defense. Big Ben, maybe make a few plays, but we're going to lean on our run game and you manage the game. And then for the Bears, it's a great point that John mentioned. I mean, it kind of happens to all rookies, especially. But yeah, at some point, if you're Justin Fields, I'm not sure if someone got in his head or he just realized like one of the things that make you special is your mobility. They didn't draft you to be a pocket passer, so I'm glad that he's starting to just become looser, just kind of not great wording, but just playing the game. Not thinking as much. Maybe has a better feel for it. But yeah, for Chicago. I'm still not thoroughly impressed by the offense schematically. I know Justin made plays, but like we mentioned, like you got to help your quarterback out. It's the NFL. It's not college where you're just gonna, one man's gonna beat the other. Got to scheme up some creative plays and such. And yeah, I like how I think it was funny because on one of the long bombs, I think on that last drive, like there was 3 guys open, and I think it's because Pittsburgh. All game, Matt Nagy and the Bears were just scheming up short pass, short pass, short pass, short pass. And it's like, oh, Pittsburgh finally got surprised. Like, oh, man, not only did they go deep, they sent 3 people deep. Like one of the rare times all game. And unfortunately, Justin just missed, I think it was Mooney on the sideline by a step. And he had Allen Robinson down the middle. But still, like call more deep plays. I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I really hope. Nothing against Matt Nagy personally, but just NFL-wise, for my sake, whenever I'm about to watch a Bears game, I hope Matt Nagy goes. Like it's painful to watch.
I think everybody wants him to go at this point.
Like, it's just painful to watch all this like creative pre-snap stuff, and then it's only for like 4 or 5 yard plays. It's like, what's the point? Like nothing deep, man. Anyways,
yeah.
So that is the Week 9 games and reactions.